Hello, coin collectors, and welcome to the DC Coin World International Coin Channel. Today we're going to look at some Canadian 5-cent coins, and here they are. And we're going to go through them all individually, but I just wanted to show you some of the Queen Elizabeth portraits on here, and then we will move them out of the way and go through them individually. And of course, you see this one up here, and those of you who connect Canadian coins, Canadian 5-cent coins, know what this one is. And of course, this is the first year, the 1953 version of the Canadian nickel or 5-cent coin. If we look at the front, you see that there it is Queen Elizabeth II. This is the Mary Gillick first portrait of Queen Elizabeth II when she was 29 years old. And this is my Bungle. One of the channels we deal with sometimes is called Bungle Collects Coins out of the United Kingdom. And Bungle sent me what he calls his swizzle stick. But as you can see, I broke it, but I'm still going to use it. If those of you who know Bungle, if you can just say, look, DC Coins needs another swizzle stick, please send him one. This is a weird coin, and many Canadian coin collectors haven't seen this that often, and that's because it's a 12-sided coin. It's the smooth version of the dodecagonal 12-sided coin, and if we look at it, we see that it's not round at all. And it says this is the first year, the year that Queen Elizabeth, of course, became queen, and it says Elizabeth II, Dea Gratia Regina. One of the things that collectors of United Kingdom coins will notice is that it doesn't say the Brit Om, or Britomn, which is the Queen of all Britons, which was on the United Kingdom coins the first year, but it was not on the Canadian coins the first year. So the first year of the Canadian nickel with Queen Elizabeth II on it. And of course, the back of it has the beaver on a little beaver lodge chewing a piece of wood, and you can see the chewed piece of wood here. You can see the beaver tail back here. At the top it says 5 cents, and notice that it's not a 5-cent coin like the US and some other places. It's a 5 cents coin. On the left side we see a maple leaf. On the right side we see a maple leaf, and then right here we see a KG. And that's for George Kruger Gray, who designed and engraved the back of this coin. At the bottom, we see that it says Canada, and of course, there's the year 1953, the coronation year for Queen Elizabeth. This is an interesting coin because it doesn't have the beaded outer rim on it. The beads actually become part of, it's more like a geared rim where it actually touches the outside. So if you look at these here, this is also an interesting coin because you almost never see it in this quality of coin. Even though this is a circulated coin, look how shiny and new it looks. Here's the problem with these coins, and that is that this version was a chromium-plated steel. So this version really gets scratched up and gets kind of an odd tin-looking color to it sometimes. So that's the first one, the 1953. So what they did was in oh, and I should tell you how many of those they made, right? They made the first year 16.6 million of them. So they're all over the place out there. This one might be worth as much as $5 just because they didn't last well in this condition. The next coin is the same Mary Gillick portrait, first portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. And this one you can see is round. So if I put them on top of each other, you'll see that they are about the same size, but one is round and one is dodecagonal. This one came out in 1963, and if we look at this, this one is a 64 version, and this one was a nickel coin, so it's all made of nickel. And again, that's why in the United States they called them, in Canada they called them nickels. So this is a 64. They only made it in 63 and 64, and they made 78 million. So if you have a 1964 Canadian nickel, it's probably not worth very much unless it has something really funny on it, and that is on some of these coins there's an extra water line on the 64s, and it is not on this one, but there's a water line, and when you count through them you'll see that there are 8 water lines instead of 7. But that's not this coin. But if you do have that one, it's worth about $20 minimum to as much as, $35. Next, we change portraits. So we finally get to the second portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. So it moved from the Mary Gillick, of course, to the Arnold Machen second portrait. And at this point in time, all the Canadian coins had the same exact engraving as the United Kingdom coins and a number of other Commonwealth country coins. Again, Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. And at the top, we have the two prongs, which tell us that this is the Arnold Machen second portrait, but also that this is the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. We tip it up another smooth edge and tip it back, and we see this is 1973, and that's George Kruger Gray again with the beaver chewing the log. Next up is the third portrait for the Canadian coins, and that is this portrait here. Now this one is interesting because if we look way down in here, we're looking for something on the United Kingdom coins, and that is the IRB for Ian Rank Broadley, who did the portrait. And if we look at this one here, Raphael David McCloof, we're looking for an RDM, I'm sorry. I don't know where that came from. But anyways, on the United Kingdom coins, and this is an Australian one, it says RDM here. If you look at the Canadian coin, you go, where's the RDM, the Raphael David McCloof? And the reason that you don't see that is because this was the first year that Canada did its own engraving. So this is not a Raphael David McCloof portrait, even though it looks very like it. It's done by Dora de Pettery Hunt. And this is the first year that Canada did its own engraving of the portrait. And that started in 1990. And this one right here is a 1993. And again, you can see the beaded outer rim on this one. And that's why I wanted to bring your attention to this one, because see how this one is geared and this one is beaded. So when they first came out with them, the 12-sided version, it wasn't beaded, it was geared. And this particular coin with the Dora de Pettery Hunt back on it was made from 1990 to 2001, the so-called third portrait, and this is the Queen when she's 64 years old, which you think is pretty old until you realize that the Queen is still alive and she's way more than 64. This came out, so she was 64 in 1990. So what is she today? Well, we know what she's in her mid-90s. And then there is this portrait, which is the fourth portrait on the Canadian coins. This initially came out in the year 2002, but there were some specialty coins that came out. And this is, of course, Queen Elizabeth II when she is 77 years old. And again, we have the beaded exterior. This portrait here, again, is a Canadian portrait. So this is by Susanna Blunt, who did this particular portrait. And we can actually see that because we have the SB down here. Can you see the SB down underneath? So that's Susanna Blunt, SB, and she did this, the so-called Canadian fourth portrait. And down underneath you see something else that isn't on, that started coming lately, and that is the P down here. And this is for the Royal Canadian Mint. They put a P on it. There are two different mints in Canada. There's the Royal Canadian Mint, and then there's the Winnipeg Mint, and this is from the Royal Canadian Mint. We also see this one has a little bit extra value because it has a doubling of the rim, but it's not extremely valuable. But you see how that rim doubles? So this is kind of a nice one to keep. The other reason I put this one in is because it has a special back, and this is the 2000 version. The 2000 version, they reproduced a Canadian coin from the 1940s. And so in 1943 until 1945, they produced a V version of the Canada coin, 5-cent coin. And V is also the number 5 in Roman numerals. And it stood for victory in Canada from 1943 to 1945. This was a remake in 2005, the 60th anniversary of the victory in Europe and the victory in Japan of the Allies. And you can see this one has some doubling of the rim on both sides. So this is a little bit of a valuable coin, but it's still only worth probably $1.50 even with the doubling. You might see some of these doubling coins online. Don't pay a lot for them. If you see one in in a coin collector's coin dealer's store, I would maybe buy one of those, but I wouldn't buy one online, just because sometimes the way that these are set up online, you just really can't tell until you see them in person, because the photography is just hard to kind of see whether it's good doubling or not. All right, so that's our Queen Elizabeth II portraits. So we have the 4th portrait, Canada portrait. We have the 3rd Canada portrait. We have the, well, there's a 2nd Canada portrait here somewhere. There we go. The 1st Canada portrait. And then, of course, we have the 12-sided, not round version of the Canadian nickel or 5 cents coin. All right, that's all we have today from DC Coin World International Coin Channel. We'd love to have you subscribe to our channel, and please leave any comments you have in the comment section, and we will read them, though we may not respond to them. Have a great day from DC Coin World International Coin Channel.